265. He doesn't like it. How bad is death? How bad is it being dead? You're right. He says, I'd rather be a slave. And not just any slave, but a slave for some dirt poor tenant farmer, not even a slave to a nobleman. I'd rather that than rule down here over all the breathless dead. I'd rather be alive and a slave than a king down here. And there's something particularly tragic about this with Achilles, because Achilles, remember, his mother was the sea goddess, and when he was born, to protect him from harm, she dipped him in the river Styx so that he would be invulnerable to being killed. They're not really aware. She and he are not aware of this weakness. Achilles, in addition to being the son of the goddess, is given a choice as to his fate, as to his destiny. And he knows this ahead of time. There's a prophecy when he's born that he has two options to choose from. The first option is he can go and fight in the Trojan War and win glory that will last forever, but he'll die young. He'll die in the war. Or he can choose a life of obscurity at home, Thea, his country, and live a long life with no fame or glory. And he chooses the short life of glory. Homer talks about this in the Iliad, where Achilles is one of the main characters before his death. And so it's particularly tragic to see him here wishing that he had made the other choice, wishing for a long life, even an obscure one, rather than the fame. The rest of the conversation, Achilles and Odysseus talk about Achilles' son, Neoptolemus, what he's been up to. This is the little bit of consolation that Achilles gets, that his son is alive and has won some glory in battle. But his own lasting fame, his own glory, even among the dead, not worth it. Yes. Yeah, the city of Troy really existed. It's in what's now Turkey. It was destroyed and rebuilt a number of times. There's one particular time that historians think is the destruction that was the Trojan War that Homer's writing about. Yeah.
Have you ever visited?
No, I've never been to Turkey. I've been to Greece. I was in Athens for a weekend when I was in college, and that was amazing in a way. I saw the ruins of the jail cell where Socrates died. That was pretty amazing. Anyway, if any of you are interested, the school is it's going to be a school trip to Rome after finals, which I'm leading. So if you have questions about that, we're going to go for about 10 days, a week in Rome, and then 2 or 3 days in Assisi, which is fairly close to Rome. Assisi, it's in Italy. It's not too far from Rome. It's where St. Francis of Assisi lived. That's the most famous part about it. But we're going to go to Rome and spend about a week there. So if you're interested in that, talk to me. What was that?
And do what?
And we'll see Rome has 2,500, 3,000 years of history there. There's the ruins of ancient Rome. There's the Christian history of Rome. The churches. There's the delicious food, which we'll be eating lots of. Exploring some of the ancient Roman roads there, and all of that. So, not anything that we're reading about here in the Odyssey, but some of these things from these other classes. We'll see the place where Julius Caesar was murdered. You can go there. You can't go into it; it's closed off, but you can see it. You can go to the spot where his ashes are buried. Anyway, if you're interested, talk to me and give more details. We'll probably give more details about that next week anyway. But we're going to leave the Monday after finals. So, all right. Anyway, I'm done with my advertisement. Okay. Other questions from Book 11 that you want to go over? You guys figured out about Sisyphus and Tantalus?
No, because I was going to ask you about it.
Aha. Okay. Sisyphus and Tantalus. So, after speaking with Agamemnon, Odysseus speaks with Achilles. He speaks with some other Trojans from the war. The Greeks from the war. And then afterwards, he sees some other souls down here on pages 268 to the end. Some other souls down here of the dead, figures from Greek myth, who are being punished in various. Is not a pleasant one, and yet there's some who have it even worse off. That are actively being punished here in the underworld. And so, if we look on page 268, we start to see some of these also. The first guy here is Titius in line 660, where he's sprawled out on the ground. He's gigantic. He covers 9 acres apparently, and these two vultures hunched on either side of him, digging into his liver, beaking deep in the blood sac, and he with his frantic hands could never beat them off. For he had once dragged off the famous consort of Zeus in all her glory, Leto, dragging her way toward Pytho's ridge over the lovely dancing rings of Panopeus. So Leto, the mother of Artemis and Apollo, he had basically raped her, and so he's being punished by having these two vultures eat his liver forever. And who else do we see punished here? Next up is Tantalus. How's Tantalus being punished? Bottom of 268 and top of 269. Well, you tell me. Look at the text there. 268.
Bearing arms
He can't drink. He's in this pool of water, and it's right below his chin, but when he bends down to drink it, the water goes down, so he can't drink, and what else can't he do? He can't eat the fruit. Why? It's right above his head. Why can't he eat it? Why can't he grab it and eat it?
Every time he tries.
Right. A breeze comes and lifts it up. All right. So we saw Elpenor, Tiresias, sort of listing the people in order that Odysseus deals with. Anticlea, his mother, other noble women. Agamemnon, Achilles, other heroes, and then last up we get the people who are being punished. So, and the ones that we're going to focus on are Tantalus. Now, what's particularly bad about this? Not only can he not eat or drink, but what makes this punishment worse? In addition to the fact that he's hungry and thirsty. Makes this hunger and thirst worse than it might be otherwise.
You saw Sisyphus too?
Well, we'll get to Sisyphus in a minute. But why is what makes Tantalus' punishment so harsh? Okay, he's thirsty, he's hungry. But what makes it worse? It's not just the case that he's hungry and thirsty.
No, the food is like delicious.
Yes, there's this delicious looking fruit hanging right above his head, almost within his reach. What else? He's got the fruit over his head, and what else? And he's standing in this pool of cool, delicious water. which he can never drink. So not only is he hungry and thirsty, but he's constantly tempted by food and drink he can't reach. We get an English word from this. If we say that something is tantalizing, it's tantalizing, it's delicious, it makes your mouth water, but it's just out of reach.
Well, that's like when your mouth is wired and you know.
But you can't get the thing, or at least not yet. It's tantalizing.
Is that craving something?
Sort of like a craving, but especially where it's like just out of your reach. So, for example, and usually you say it about food. So, like if say you're in a rush to go somewhere and you're hungry and you're walking along and you pass this bakery and there's this delicious smell of freshly baked pastries and there's some coffee scent walking out there. I used to when I take the metro along my walk from my house to the metro, there's this bakery I walk past. It smells so delicious. And it's tantalizing. Usually I'm not that hungry in the mornings if I've had breakfast. But if I did have breakfast, maybe I'm running a bit late, I can't go in there, but it's tantalizing. My mouth starts to water, this delicious food. I can see the pastries in the window. I think, if only I could have some, but I can't. That's tantalizing. Like Tantalus here.
I just think I'll be late.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on how late and how hungry I am. Yeah,
Like, I'm
Yeah.
already late.
maybe just be late. All right, so tantalizing. Now, what about Sisyphus? Sisyphus, how is Sisyphus being punished?
Wait, so Tantalus is that? What you just described?
Tantalus is the name of this man who's being punished here.
Oh.
And so we have this word tantalizing, something that's tantalizing. It's like you're Tantalus, right? I'm in this situation where I want this delicious thing, but I can't get it. Maybe if you're waiting for your food at a restaurant and you see a tray of, there's this restaurant by me, they have this, one of the things they have is it's sizzling mussels. They like bring them out in this big skillet and they're sizzling and there's like butter and garlic and everything on them. They smell delicious. And so, if you're waiting for your food, you're super hungry, and the waiter comes by, he's carrying one of those, but it's not for you, it's for the next table over, and that might be tantalizing.
Yeah, the torture of rushing the rock up to the hill.
And what happens when he rolls the rock up to the top?
It topples over.
Yes. So he's always trying to get this boulder up the hill. And whenever he gets close to the top, he rolls back down.
So he's like his body's programmed to just keep going to him?
So he just keeps going.
Or does he just keep doing it trying to complete the task?
Is that the way he's cursed?
Yes, this is his punishment. He's got this giant boulder he's always trying to roll up the hill. But every time he gets close to the top, it slips. Maybe his hands get sweaty, it slips. And it rolls back down to the bottom. He has to walk down and start all over again. Okay. Now, why exactly, whether he's sort of compelled to do this or whether, he's being told, like, if you get to the top, then, you'll stop being punished. But he has his task to complete. It's rolling this boulder up to the top of the hill. Every time he gets it rolls back down. We get an English word from this also. If you say that something is Sisyphean, this word is much less common than tantalizing. But if you say that something is Sisyphean, it means it's impossible. You're going to waste all this effort trying to accomplish it, and when you think that you're done, it's going to turn out that you didn't accomplish anything at all. Sisyphean.
That's wild.
Bruh. I just hate that. Like, just kill me.
They can't even die here. Yeah.
Not further, like, if that's the way I'm living, just end it.
Well, he's already dead.
So, who is he listening to?
He's in the underworld. His spirit is being punished here in the underworld.
Like, how? What? You're dead. How are you still being punished?
Well, here the Greeks here Homer thinks that there is some sort of existence, not quite life, but existence after death. and sometimes it's
I don't know. I heard you play your biggest regret.
mediocre at best. But here apparently Tantalus and Sisyphus are being actually punished in this way. We see this other guy; he's constantly having his liver eaten. Right, these vultures. So you see the vultures flying around all the time. You ever see them eat a dead animal?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's disgusting. You know, vultures. One of the things that vultures have that other birds don't is vultures don't have feathers on their heads or necks usually. You know why? Because they're constantly sticking their heads into dead, rotting bodies to eat the internal organs. And so if they had feathers, it would get all like covered with blood and guts and everything. So it's cleaner for them not to have feathers on their heads or necks. That's why they look so ugly.
They ugly.
So and here they're eating his liver as he's.
Bro, what is a vulture?
What was that?
Vulture.
It's like a crowd.
Like a buzzard.
Bro, them turkey buzzards ugly as hell.
Yeah. Buzzards are
I
vultures.
seen that like 2 days ago on
Yeah.
the sidewalk.
Yeah, there are two types around here. There are turkey vultures, which are the larger ones that are brown, and then there are black vultures, which are a little bit smaller and they're black. But
They're ugly.
yeah, they're right. They're ugly things. That's
Hey,
it.
imagine that thing's chasing you.
All right. Yes, and then the last guy he sees is Heracles, or Hercules is the Latin version of who weirdly enough he's sort of both with the gods, but also his human spirit is down here in the underworld. It's sort of strange. Other questions from book 11 you want to go over before we move to 12? All righty. So book 12, page 271, the cattle of the sun. Uh-oh, here it comes. Here it comes. We knew this was going to happen. We were going to get here sooner or later. And here,
What you mean? What comes?
well, what's going to happen? What do we know is going to happen in the cattle of the sun? Homer has told us a couple of times. He's dropped more than just dropped hints. Why are the cattle of the sun important? What did Tiresias tell Odysseus about the cattle of the sun?
I don't know.
Didn't that one?
Didn't he have to make a sacrifice with it?
Well, the last thing that Tiresias tells him is after you get home, you're going to have to make another journey to sacrifice to Poseidon. But what does he tell him? The second thing he tells him, or the first thing?
If they eat his beast, they will die.
Right. He says, whether or not you get home easily depends on whether you can keep your men from harming the cattle of the sun. If you are able to do that, you'll all make it home pretty easily. If not, your men are all going to die, and you're going to have a hard time getting home. What do we know is going to happen?
They're going to die.
We know they're going to die. Right? We've already seen Odysseus right at the beginning of the book. We've seen him after this when he's with Calypso. He's the only one there. His men are dead. We know that. Homer tells us right at the very beginning that his men are going to die because they eat the cattle of the sun. It's not a...
Come on, the cattle is a cow.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So page 271 here, the cattle of the sun, book 12. The end of the first half of the Odyssey. There are 24 books in the Odyssey. Now, when our ship had left the ocean river rolling in her wake and launched out into open sea with its long swells to reach the island of Aea, east where the dawn forever young has home, and dancing rings and the sun has his risings. Heading in, we beached our craft on the sands. The crews swung out on the low-sloping shore, and there we fell asleep, awaiting dawn's first light. As soon as dawn with her rose-red fingers shone again, I dispatched some men to Circe's halls to bring the dead Elpenor's body. We cut logs in haste, and out on the island's sharpest jutting headland held his funeral rites in sorrow, streaming tears. Once we'd burned the dead man and the dead man's armor, heaping his grave mound, hauling a stone that coped it well, we planted his balanced oar aloft to crown his tomb. And so we saw to his rites, each step in turn. Nor did our coming back from death escape Circe. She hurried toward us, decked in rich regalia, handmaids following close with trays of bread and meats galore and glinting ruddy wine. And the lustrous goddess standing in our midst hailed us warmly, "Ah, my daring, reckless friends, you who ventured down to the house of death alive, doomed to die twice over. Others died just once. Come, take some food and drink some wine. Rest here the livelong day, and then tomorrow at daybreak you must sail. But I will set you a course and chart each sea mark, so neither on sea nor land will some new trap ensnare you in trouble, make you suffer more. Her foresight won our fighting spirits over. So all that day till the sun went down, we sat and feasted on sides of meat and heady wine. And then when the sun had set and night came on, the men lay down to sleep by the ship's stern cables. But Circe, taking me by the hand, drew me away from all my shipmates there, and sat me down, and lying beside me probed me for details. I told her the whole story start to finish. Then the queenly goddess laid my course. Your descent to the dead is over, true, but listen closely to what I tell you now, and God himself will bring it back to mind. First, you will raise the island of the Sirens, those creatures who spellbind any man alive, whoever comes their way. Whoever draws too close off guard and catches the Sirens' voices in the air, no sailing home for him, no wife rising up to meet him, no happy children beaming up their father's face. The high thrilling song of the Sirens will transfix him, lolling there in their meadow. Round them, heaps of corpses rotting away, rags of skin shriveling on their bones. Race straight past that coast. Soften some beeswax and stop your shipmates' ears so none can hear, none of the crew. But if you are bent on hearing, have them tie you hand and foot in the swift ship, erect at the mast block, lashed by ropes to the mast so you can hear the siren's song to your heart's content. But if you plead, commanding your men to set you free, then they must lash you faster, rope on rope. But once your crew has rowed past the Sirens, a choice of routes is yours. I cannot advise you which to take or lead you through it all. You must decide for yourself. But I can tell you the ways of either course. On one side, beetling cliffs shoot up, and against them pound the huge roaring breakers of blue-eyed Amphitrite, the clashing rocks that are called by all the blissful gods. Not even birds can escape them, no, not even the doves that veer and fly ambrosia home to Father Zeus. Even of those, the sheer rocks always pick off one, and Father wings one more to keep the number up. No ship of men has ever approached and slipped past. Always some disaster, big timbers and sailors' corpses whirled away by the waves and lethal blasts of fire. One ship alone, one deep-sea craft sailed clear, the Argo, sung by the world when heading home from Aeetes shores. And she would have crashed against those giant rocks and sunk at once if Hera, for love of Jason, had not sped her through. Almost done. All right, let's pause there. So, but here they return to Circe. Why do they return to Circe's island? What do they have to do there? They're gonna have some more feasting, but why do they have to return?
Yeah, the barbarian to come back.
Right, Elpenor, the first soul that Odysseus spoke to in the underworld. His right, the guy who fell off the roof and died. They have to bury him properly. Then Circe is going to tell Odysseus what he's going to run into next.
Time out.
All right.
He has to get buried in Circe's island.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to bring his body home, so they burn the body and then they make a mound of dirt and rocks over it and put his oar in the top. And that's his grave. All right, so we'll continue on Tuesday.